Hey, my friend, if you are watching this video, it means that you have heard of me or Dad Nation, probably through YouTube, through Instagram, maybe a friend of yours that I've helped, or maybe even through the podcast that I host. But in the case that you haven't, my name is Mitchell Osman, and I'm so glad that you found me today. And I hope that you are excited, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to know to have an incredible marriage and to go from feeling incompatible to irresistible using my Core 4 marriage makeover framework. And hey, after watching this video, you're going to understand your wife, yourself, and your marriage on a whole new level. You're going to understand her most essential needs and exactly how to meet them to become the man that she desires, that she respects, and the man that she can't stop bragging about. And just for being here with me today, at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a free gift that's going to show you exactly how to connect with your wife and to spark more intimacy and connection than ever. But you need to hang around to the very end of the video for that free gift. All right, let's jump in. All right, so we know that 1 in 2 marriages ends in divorce. That's like 51%, I believe the statistics are. And we also know that through research that 70% of all divorces are actually initiated by women. And in cases where the wife is educated and has earning power, that number actually jumps to 90%. 90% of divorces are initiated by women. This tells us 2 things: that we need help in how to have a thriving marriage, and that also it tells us if you are struggling that you are not alone. It was me too, and it's literally every second dude. But today, I'm going to give you the tools and the skills that you need to have in order to have a passionate marriage and a healthy and a happy life that can weather any storm. All right. So if you want to stop fighting so much, if you want to have physical intimacy and connection, if you want to be less angry and know how to keep your cool, then I want you to keep watching. Okay. But also, just so we don't waste any of your time, this video is only for men who are married, who are earning 6 figures or more, and are committed to doing the deep work, who are willing to go all in on their life and their love, who are motivated, disciplined, and ready to take ownership of their whole lives, and that are humble and that are open to learning new ideas and concepts. So if you're not this kind of guy, or maybe if you're generally kind of closed-minded, or you're not willing to put in the work, or maybe unwilling to take ownership or unwilling to change, just go ahead and click off of this video, because I don't want to waste any more of your time. All right. So instead, maybe you can go back and listen to my podcast or check out some free resources on the website before you come back here. All right. So now listen, if you're anything like me, by now, you have probably tried it all on your own. You've tried reading the marriage books. You've tried talking to your friends. You've tried watching YouTube content, or maybe talking to some of your close family members, trying to get help, trying to fit the puzzle pieces together. Maybe you even tried therapy, but with no luck. But here's why those things I mentioned don't usually work. First, a book, a YouTube video, or anything like that is one-way information with no feedback. It's just random information with no guided implementation or integration. And I saw this all the time earlier in my life when I was a music teacher, for example. Saw it play out all the time. So people would come to me often after trying to learn how to play guitar from a music book or some YouTube video. But they would never see the progress that they wanted, because as a learning student, they had specific challenges that were unique to their situation. And you see, marriage is no different. Right? Because every man goes into a marriage with their own lifetime of experiences, skills, some trauma, pain, different triggers, and actually so does their wife, right? She has her own unique experiences, and this makes for like a highly unique cocktail of outcomes in each individual marriage. So this means that every single marriage is different with specific challenges and strengths based on the unique individuals that make up this marriage. This is why a book or YouTube or any other one-way stream of information doesn't really work for most people. You see, the solutions to your problems aren't a one-size-fits-all. They require more nuance and a greater depth of understanding. And the second reason why these things typically don't work is, especially when you're talking to your friends and family, is because your friends or your family have biases, and some just give really bad advice. And this may come to a shock to you, but your loved ones don't usually tell you what you need to hear. They tell you what you want to hear. And there's a big difference. They also have opinions about what you should and what you shouldn't do. Right? Their advice is usually colored with their own biases, values, and their own convictions. But you and I both know that you need something different. You're here because what you've tried hasn't been working. I know this because, like I said, I was you. My way of thinking and my specific skills got me to the place I was in, and I needed help. And the good news is today, help is on the way, my friend. So just imagine for a moment, if you could take a red pill that fixed your marriage. What about if this pill eliminated all of your fears and insecurities? Or what if you could take a pill that lost all that extra weight for you? Or you could take a pill that made your wife desire and respect you. Wouldn't that be incredible? And I know as you're watching this, you're thinking, this sounds too simple, right? Or on the opposite, maybe this sounds like way too much work. Or maybe you're struggling with thinking that maybe you don't even know that you have what it takes. You may even be feeling like having a thriving marriage is impossible at this point. And to be honest, most people do at this place. And like I said, that was me as well. But for the past 10 years of leadership and coaching, I've walked with countless men through their challenges and their victories. And as you will hear, I transformed my own life physically, emotionally, relationally, and financially. And so over all that time, I distilled my learning into 4 core pillars that I'm going to teach you today. And that's what I call the Core 4 Marriage Makeover Blueprint. So before we dive straight into the value, I just want to assure you that you can actually get these results. So let me tell you a little bit about my own journey. You see, I grew up in a dysfunctional home. My mom was a faith-filled saint. She took me to church every Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was that kid that was asleep under the pews. But on the flip side, my dad was an absent alcoholic. And even though they were still married, he really wasn't around that much. And most of my childhood memories of him, he was either drunk, high, or hungover. We were pretty poor as he spent most of our money on booze and drugs. And I was always trying to get his attention. So I started playing hockey one day to just try and get his attention. And I vividly remember our quarterly father-son hockey games. It was at the local arena. And as we all got dressed in the locker room, my eyes would scan the room and see all the dads tying up their sons' skates. But my dad never showed up. And so it was always the coach that tied mine. And I'll never forget that look of pity in his eyes as he would get down on one knee to lace up my skates. If I'm honest, man, that still stings a little bit. And I also grew up being told that I wasn't going to amount to much. I was told I should just settle for a simple job because I wasn't the smart one in the family. I was told you're going to end up just like your dad. And there's a lot more to unpack here, but for the sake of time, I think it's just safe to say that I grew up with some issues. I grew up with deep insecurity, issues with anger, no belief in myself, very low self-worth. I was also financially illiterate as I grew older, and I began to emotionally eat constantly. But when I got married, I was convinced that this would fix all my problems. But boy, was I wrong. On the outside, you see, it appeared that we had it all figured out. But on the inside, man, things were not okay. Maybe you can relate to that feeling. You see, the first few years of marriage felt like hell. I can't even candy coat it. I can't say it any different way. We fought constantly. We had serious problems in our communication and in our sex life and so many other things. And when I look back, in our defense, there was a lot of life that was getting in the way that made our first few years so difficult. There were so many traumatic things that happened between the both of us, but I'll share one story for you just to kind of let you into my life a little bit. You see, in our first year of marriage, we were helping plant a church. And I started out leading the bands and all the music. And after 3 years, we were the fastest growing church in the country, and we were continuing to grow at an unsustainable rate. And I ended up becoming one of the senior leaders in that church. But as it continued to grow, my wife and I became the victims of spiritual abuse and emotional manipulation by the church leadership. And after being asked to compromise on my family values for the church on multiple occasions, I made a decision to stand up for my family and to say no. Unfortunately, this resulted in an immediate termination. I was forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. We were kicked out of the church, basically exiled from our community, and we were totally silenced. You see, we lost our relationships, our income, our community, my leadership, all within like 2 days. And in that moment, we didn't have the tools to navigate taking such a big hit. And it just made everything so much more difficult. And at times, it just turned us against each other. And I remember 2 things very clearly from those times. I remember sitting down and journaling, and I was writing, did I make a mistake in getting married? God, why would you let me do this? What have I done? I was so miserable. The second thing, I can remember getting home from work and parking outside the house, and this happened almost every day. And I would just dread walking into the door because I knew that there was a fight waiting on the other side. So I just sit in my car and I try to muster up the courage. And I would pray that today things would be different. And oftentimes people ask me, was there a turning point in your life? And if I think back, there was really 2 pivotal moments that changed my life. And they almost happened back to back. One, there was a fight and there was a funeral. The first thing was we had a huge blow up. I remember we were talking about having kids at this point, and I can remember getting mad, and I was just lost my mind. And I remember saying, I would never bring a child into this mess. And we both stormed off, and I had a gut feeling that day that if we didn't decide to work things out, our marriage was going to be over. You see, in that moment, we were barely hanging on. I thought she was going to leave any day. I was 50 pounds overweight. We were almost 100 grand in debt. Actually, this is a cool photo. This is one of the chunks of money that we owed back. And we were big fans of Dave Ramsey, and we had these debt thermometers hung up in our spare bedroom. And every time we'd pay off a chunk of money, we'd rush into the room to color it in with our big red Sharpies. And I look back now, and there are moments of joy when we were doing that. I was working 3 part-time jobs, and I was exhausted. I was trying to prevent us from going further into debt. I was depressed, I was angry, and I was also checking out all at the same time, kind of apathetic. I was empty and medicating myself every chance I could. The second event that really was changing for me was a funeral, like I said, that I was singing at. And that funeral was for this wealthy man. He was a philanthropic gentleman who spent his life giving to others. And as I was sitting side stage, I was waiting to go up and sing at this funeral. And I'll never forget the question the pastor asked the crowd of people that day. In referencing the incredible life this gentleman had lived, he asked the crowd, "Are you living a life worth imitating?" Then he asked, "If you died today, would you be proud of the legacy you left behind?" My first thought was, nope. No one would ever look at my life and say, "I want the marriage he has. I want to handle money the way he has. I want to have the body that he has." I realized that if I were to die today, like he said, I would be ashamed of the life that I left behind. And you see, that is when it all changed. I woke up the next morning and I took ownership of everything in my life. No more excuses, no more blaming, no more of the same. I was determined that I would do whatever it takes to restore my marriage and to turn my life around. So I literally got up and I started running the very next day. I made it about 400 meters, and it was like minus 20 degrees Celsius. I believe that's minus 4 Fahrenheit, if that's what you go by, but nothing was going to stop me. I bought my first personal finance book, which was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We booked an appointment with a marriage counselor. And I also reached out to some of the most successful people I knew and asked for help in my fitness, my finances, my family, and my future. And in just over a year and a half or so, I had lost 50 pounds and I was training for a half marathon. We were completely debt-free and financially secure. We had restored our marriage. Divorce was no longer on the doorstep. I was confident, I was focused, and I was accountable to other great men. So what changed? Well, I did exactly what I'm about to show you. A mentor of mine said this to me a while back, and I've never been able to forget it. And he asked, "Why is working on your marriage so important?" And he answered himself, and he said, "Because marriage impacts every aspect of your life." Then he said, "Consider this. If your marriage is going wrong, but everything else is going right in your life, none of it really matters. But on the flip side, if your marriage is going right and everything else is going wrong in life, still, none of it matters. Your marriage affects everything." And you're going to notice that we don't just talk about marriage. And that's because in my experience, our marriages are so heavily affected by the other areas of our lives. That was also my situation. As I mentioned above, life can just put pressures on us. The baggage from our past, our health, our mindset, and so many other things can get in the way and make our marriage so much more difficult than it has to be. So my coaching will help transform your marriage, no doubt, but that's only one part of a 4-part equation that we're going to walk through together. Much of the time, the deep-seated problem in a marriage isn't the marriage itself. It's usually learning how to handle pressures from the other parts of life. And this is why I've developed the core 4 marriage makeover. And those 4 core pillars are family, relationship solidification, your fitness, body renovation, your focus, which is your mind transformation, and your future, which is goal implementation. So this isn't just 3 hacks to get your wife back. Because if we don't fix the other parts of your life, you'll see some improvement, sure. But when it all hits the fan and life throws you a curveball, you mostly fall right back into that same unhealthy place again in your marriage. This was my experience, and this has been the experience of so many others. So that's why I've designed this Core 4 framework to take that into consideration. It teaches you how to master your entire life, your marriage, your mind, your body, and your emotions. So for the sake of time, we're going to focus on just one of these Core 4 pillars, and that's going to be the family pillar. So in the family pillar, we break it down into 4 key relationships: our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our wives, our relationship with our kids, and our relationship with our friends and family. So for the sake of time, we're only going to dig into your relationship with your wife. But as we quickly unpack these, I want you to assess how you are doing on each level. So all women have 3 basic needs. Those are to feel seen, heard, and safe. And as husbands, if we can meet these needs, we can transform our marriages and begin creating a healthy and happy home starting today. So number 1, your wife needs to be seen by you. And this can happen 3 different ways: through appreciation, through affection, and through acknowledgement. So let's unpack all 3. So appreciation. It's so important to take time to appreciate her for the wife that she is, for the mom that she is, and most importantly, for the woman she is. If you're familiar with the love languages, it's important for you to learn to love and appreciate her in her most prominent love language. For example, sometimes I write little post-it notes of appreciation for my wife, and I stick it up on her bathroom mirror so it's the first thing that she sees when she wakes up. The second thing she needs to feel seen is affection. And when I say that, I don't mean slapping her butt, grabbing at her, and initiating sex. I mean gentleness, verbal affection, gentle physical affection like hugging, hand holding, kisses on the forehead, those things. And it's important that your wife feels treasured and desired above all other women and all other options, right? The third A here is acknowledgement. You see, most wives and mothers do more than we will ever see. And yes, this applies in the opposite as well. We do a lot that they don't necessarily recognize. But thanks to a psychological phenomenon called the overestimation bias, we actually have a tendency to overestimate what we do as men and underestimate what our wives do. Mostly because we don't see it with our own eyes usually. But it's important to acknowledge her in her actions, like for cleaning up, for doing the laundry, for being just so beautiful, for taking care of the kids, for going to work, for being so dedicated to the family, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to making your wife feel seen, I have a reflection question for you. If you asked your wife how you were doing with how much appreciation, affection, and acknowledgement you were giving her, what would she say? And how would you score yourself from 1 to 10, if you're totally honest with yourself? All right, let's move on to number 2. The second need your wife has is to be heard. Really what that means is your wife needs to have quality conversation. This may be her biggest need. She just wants to know that you are both A, actively listening, and B, that you are willing to engage with her in conversation without trying to fix things, without judging her feelings or whatever. Right? So here's some things. She wants to talk simply for the sake of talking. This is hard to wrap your head around. I know it was for me. But talking is connecting. There's no agenda. There's no goal. She just wants to talk like you used to when you first met or when you first started dating. The second thing is she wants your eyes. So when you're talking, put your phone down. Turn off the TV. Give her your full undivided attention. The third thing she wants is for you to empathize, not fix. Well, most of the time. So if she's talking about how hard her day was or how nervous she is about this thing coming up, it's important that you empathize with those feelings and don't try to force her out of it or push her out of it or give her all these reasons why she doesn't need to feel that way. Just empathize. Now, why is this so important? Because women need to be engaged emotionally before they can get involved with you physically. And I know it's weird. It's backwards for us, right? Men are the opposite. We need to get physical, and usually have sex before we can be comfortable talking about our emotions. Like when you think about like post-sex pillow talk, right? So as we reflect on your wife's need to be heard, a reflection question for you is, does your wife feel heard? Does she feel that you are a safe place to talk about anything with? Do you think that she feels like she is your number one priority when you're both talking? Or do you think that maybe she feels like you're always a little distracted or not fully present when you're talking with her? The third basic need your wife has is the need to feel safe. And we can split that up into 4 different kinds of safety. The first one is emotional safety. She wants to share her true feelings with you, unfiltered, without fear of being judged, dismissed, or without fear of you getting defensive or angry. She needs to feel like she's emotionally safe. Number 2, she needs to feel like she's relationally safe. She needs to know that you will preside, right? Your wife wants to know that you are a permanent fixture in the home, that you aren't cheating, that you're not leaving, you're not 1 foot out, that you're taking complete ownership of your family and you're willing to commit, to guide, and to lead your family through any storm that might come your way. Number 3, she wants to know that she is financially safe, that you will provide. She wants to know that you will do whatever it takes to meet your family's most basic needs, to provide food, shelter, and clothing. She also wants to know that you won't do anything irrational to spend their money on things they don't need. And the fourth kind of safety she needs is physical safety. She wants to know that you will protect her and the family should they ever be in danger. So as we think about your wife's basic need to feel safe, I have a reflection question for you. Does your wife truly feel safe? Does she feel like she has absolutely nothing to fear, that you will protect, provide, preside, that you won't leave or you won't cheat on her or anything like that? So here's your homework after watching this video, among other things that I'll tell you. I want you to set aside some time to sit down with your wife, and I want you to get rid of all the distractions that this possibly could come in. Maybe get a sitter or put the kids to bed, whatever the case is for you in your situation. And I want you to ask her these questions. How can I make you feel more seen? How can I make you feel more heard? And how can I make you feel more safe? And I want you to take notes on exactly what she says, and then commit to doing those things and follow through on every single point. Just this one concept alone can completely transform your marriage. Trust me. And as I said, this is just a fraction of what I'm going to teach you if we work together. This is like the basic rudimentary stuff that can help any man in his marriage. There is so much more that you can tap into to transform your relationships in just a few weeks. But also in coaching, we don't just talk about your relationship with your wife. We also teach you how to excel in every other key relationship. For example, your relationship with yourself. Like we walk you through a core values assessment to find out what's exactly most important to you, like how you're wired. We walk you through a strengths assessment, the Big Five personality test. I teach you about love languages, and so you can identify what your love language is, your passion and purpose discovery tool, which can help you identify that. We talk about the 6 layers of self to master, which is self-leadership, self-ownership, self-respect, self-care, self-control, and self-confidence. And lastly, we talk about how to unlock your genius, and we learn about the 4 types of genius that exist and that we all have some type of it. And as we've talked about, we talk about your relationship with your wife. So we go through the love languages. We go through a core values alignment tool to see where you are aligned with your wife on your core values. We talk about how to affair-proof your marriage, to go from incompatible to irresistible. We talk through 3 ways to communicate through conflict. I give you the framework for the perfect apology. Trust me, that's such a good one. And then fun one-on-one, right? How to have fun with your wife, again, just like you used to when you dated. We talk about your relationship with your kids, how to apply the love languages to your kids and use them with them. We give you tools and frameworks on how to show up on a whole new level as a dad. I give you 8 key principles for disciplining your kids, how to raise strong and mentally resilient kids, and lastly, how to break generational cycles for good and to blaze a new path for your family. And the last key relationships we talk about is your friends, and how your friends really equal your future, and how to make friends that will change your life for the better. We talk about how to set healthy boundaries with your friends. We talk about the 3 frameworks to becoming the most likable guy in any room. This is fantastic for networking events, if you're trying to grow your circle. And lastly, we talk about the 3 levels of great conversation. And outside the family pillar, I want to give you a quick high-level overview of some of the other pillars that I'm going to teach you to master as well. It's customized to your specific challenges in life because we pull from every part of your life to extract, to dissect, and to analyze and repair the broken parts and not waste time on anything else. So this is like a la carte. It doesn't have to be, it's customized to you for whatever you need. The second pillar is focus, right? So if you need help with your confidence, stress, your distractions, your addictions, I'm going to show you how you can get complete clarity, confidence, and contentment in the present and the future to become the master of your mind. I'm going to teach you a bunch of things. Like we're going to walk through a mindset assessment. We're going to walk you through a time and energy audit where you can discover exactly where your time and energy is going and how to redirect the flow. We're going to talk about flow state, how to access it, and how to 10x your productivity. We're going to talk about your mindset and how to get control of and harness your subconscious thoughts and your conscious thoughts. We'll talk about your willpower and how to develop an impenetrable willpower. And I'm going to teach you about something called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is the catalyst to developing your will. We're going to talk about habit hacking and how to form great habits and how to kick bad ones for good. And lastly, to master your time, how to master your time and get your life back, and really how to conquer your calendar. The third pillar we're going to talk about is fitness. So if you need help losing fat or building muscle or getting your diet under control, I'm going to show you exactly how I lost 50 pounds and built my dream body. And I'm going to teach you how to do the same for yourself. So in this coaching, we're going to talk about a bunch of the following things. We're going to give you a fitness assessment to see where you are at and where you want to go. We're going to do a body composition test, and we're going to do some goal setting with you. When it comes to diet and nutrition, I'm going to give you a custom nutrition plan for fat loss or muscle gain, whatever you want. We're going to teach you how nutrition works and how to eat for your goals, and how to understand your emotional relationship with food. And lastly, how to get a grip on your diet once and for all. If you're anything like me, man, the yo-yo is so real. We're going to talk about exercise and training. I'm going to give you a custom exercise plan for your goals, whether it's just fat loss or muscle gain. We're going to talk about it all. We'll talk about supplements and other pillars that you need to get the results that you want. And lastly, we're going to talk about rest and how important that is in your overall health as well, and how to improve your sleep hygiene and get the best sleep of your life every night. And the last pillar we're going to talk about is your future. And if you're the kind of guy who worries about what your future is going to look like, I'm going to help you create a clear vision of exactly what you want and help you develop a strategic plan on exactly how to get there. So many guys that I talk to, they have a fear for the future because they don't have a plan and they don't know what they're going to do. So we're going to take care of all that stuff. We're going to get into goal setting and goal getting, right? Like how to set achievable goals and accomplish them every time. I'm going to teach you about the SMART goal framework and also the HEART framework that I've developed as well. We're going to walk through a eulogy exercise, which is this eye-opening practice that's going to change the way you think and ultimately change your life. I'm going to show you how to write your life mastery statement, which is really kind of like a creed or a code on how you commit to live for the rest of your life. I'm going to teach you about a concept called the 3M Limitless Life, which is a framework to show you how to live a life unlocked, right? How to unlock productivity, to be fully present, and to stay focused in every arena that you find yourself in. The last thing we talk about is called a W5 framework, and this is really a system that you can use to keep you in alignment with what matters the most every single day without compromise. Now, we focus on all these aspects of our lives because, as I said, our marriage doesn't exist inside of a vacuum. It's heavily connected to and affected by everything else in our lives. And so because of this, it's imperative that we gain control in the other areas of our lives as well. It's kind of like spaghetti, right? You can't pull one noodle without affecting all the others. And after hearing all this, I know you're probably thinking, like, man, this is impossible. We are too far gone in our marriage. Or maybe you're thinking, I won't have the time for what this is going to take. Or I don't have the money or the resources for this. Or maybe you're thinking, I don't have the courage or the confidence to do this. Now, if that's how you're feeling, I want you to remember this phrase, okay? Confidence is the result, not the requirement. You see, confidence isn't required to start. In fact, being confident before doing something is almost impossible. Confidence will come only after you take action and you start seeing the results. You see, it requires a leap of faith. So don't forget that, okay? Confidence is the result, not a requirement. You still not convinced? Let me tell you about a man named Ivan. He's a senior manager in an IT company for oil and gas. And he was overwhelmed with work and commitments, and he was lacking connection with his wife and kids. He was stuck feeling like he wasn't good enough because of the pain from his traumatic childhood. But now he's thriving. He has clarity. He's in great shape. He has more time and connection with his wife and kids than ever before. Or another man named Angelo. He's a 39-year-old in a high-level management position. He came to me struggling with anger and feeling like a lack of compassion in his marriage. And after a few short months, he was able to control his emotions, significantly reduce their conflict, and create more connection and intimacy than ever with his wife. And now they're about to start their own beautiful little family. Or I could tell you about a man named Norman who's been in senior leadership positions for decades, but struggled with insecurity, negativity, and emotional eating his whole life. He's now in fantastic shape. He's confident, he's focused, and he's on fire with passion at 74 years old. Now, if these men can do it, so can you. I want you to think about this. There are only 6 inches between you and the marriage and the life that you desire the most. And that distance is right between your ears, which is your mind, your brain, your willingness to commit. I love this quote from Dale Carnegie. He says this: action greases the wheel of life, but inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. So let me ask you, getting to have a passionate and thriving marriage is amazing, right? But what if you dreamed even bigger? What if you knew you could have more sex and more passion than ever in your marriage? What if you could have the body of your dreams? What if you could have unshakable confidence? And what if you could get control over your anger and never lose your cool? What if you could have both more time and be more productive? What would that do for you? It would change everything, right? You see, you know that gap of where you are and where you want to be? There's really only two things that are needed to see all of that come true for you. Number one is your full undivided commitment, and two, my coaching. So there's two directions that we can go from here to get you the results that you want. Option number one is you take the information I give you in this video, you try it for yourself, and you get it right, and you get it wrong, and you do some trial and some error, and eventually with time, you may get there, but you'll have a lot of sweat and tears on the way. Or option two, we can hop on a call and discuss how we can shortcut all of that and give you all the training, the tools, and the strategies that you need based on what I've studied and tested over the past decade on myself and countless other men. So if that sounds like you and you're 100% sure that you want to take option two so that you can get the results faster and easier, go ahead and book a call when this video is over. And as we wrap up this time, I want to share this quote with you because it's one of my favorites because it's so simple, but also so profound. And I found this to be true in every area of my life. So it goes like this. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. That was by Jesse Potter. Man, that is so true. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, like we said, statistically, we know only 50% of the marriages make it today. And we know that the vast majority of those divorces are initiated by women. So brother, don't let your marriage become another statistic. You deserve more in this life. And deep down, you know your wife and kids deserve a healthy family and a happy home. So don't hold back from fiercely committing to the life you know you were made for. If there's a fire growing in your gut as you're listening to this, listen to your instincts. Book a call after you finish watching this video. Let's connect and see how I can help you transform your life and your love. And lastly, as I promised, as a thank you for watching this video and getting to the end, I have a gift for you to use as you wait for our call together. This is a PDF called Igniting Your Intimacy, and it's a list of 44 questions you can use to spark engaging conversation with your wife. Remember, like I said, one of your wife's basic needs is a need for quality conversation. They need to be engaged emotionally before anything else, okay? So save this list, use it on your next date night or any quiet time you both have together, and you can thank me later. All right, book a call, then download that free gift, and I'll see you on the other side, brother.